This is Predator Hunting Radio. I am your host, Tony Abreu, and in this episode, episode number 9, we are going to be talking about the difference between night vision versus thermal. Also, we're going to get into my State of the Union, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that's coming up and what we're going to be hopefully pushing forward through here in the next couple months. So let's go ahead and get into this. So night vision versus thermal. This is a night vision scope. This is actually the ATN X-Sight LTV. It is digital night vision. Very cool. This is actually the Pulsar Thermion XQ50. Okay. Couple differences here. Number one, night vision versus thermal. A thermal does not need a light to see. It uses a sensor that basically detects heat, and what it does is it projects it onto a screen here, and it basically detects the differences in heat, especially animals. They glow, or whatever color you have it on. They basically so like say black hot, white hot, you know, if it was in white hot, if there was an animal's body heat, it's going to show all white. And depending on the clarity of the scope and the size of the sensor, you can start to see details in that depending on how close they are and what the magnification is. But this one does not need a light. This one, on the other hand, actually, this is probably one of the best scopes I've seen yet as far as being able to pull in natural light at night through the night vision sensor. It has a new sensor in it. And it's amazing so far. I'm looking forward to testing it out further tonight, actually in this area that I'm in right now. I'm actually in one of the areas that I'm blessed to be able to hunt. It's a farmer field. It's a 600 acre tract, but there's about 200 plus acres of woods that away. And then there's 400 or so plantable acres that are all around me. Right now it's planted in corn, so you can just imagine the game here. But this is a digital night vision scope, and it requires, this one doesn't require it all the time, but most of your digital night vision scopes require a light, and this light definitely helps you see farther, although this one, like I said, pulls in a lot of light. So differences of them. Number one, these scopes come in all different shapes and sizes, so you really can't just compare these two because there's little ones, big ones. There's compact, there's full-size scopes. I mean, this is kind of like a full-size scope. It accepts 30 millimeter rings, so does this one. So you really can't, you know, compare the sizes of these two, but at the same time, you know, each one's going to do different things, obviously. So I got a little tongue twisted there. But the night vision needs the light, the thermal doesn't. So let's go into price. Price, this is $38.99. That's $3,899. So your thermals are going to be a lot more expensive. This is right around $600. And basically, just to go back on my story a little bit, the first scope I ever bought was like a $700 scope. It was the X-Sight or ATN X-Sight HD2, X-Sight 2, and it was, I think, right around $600. And then I ended up keeping that scope, but also upgrading or selling that scope and upgrading to the ATN 4K, which was right around $800. It was a little bit bigger than this, but in the same size, in the same type of frame. And that scope was really amazing. Most of these scopes, though, most of your digital scopes, they come with a IR, which is infrared illuminator. They come with one, but generally the ones they come with, if you don't, number one, if you don't know how to aim it, then you're not going to get a lot of distance out of it. I fortunately learned how to aim them very early on and actually made a couple videos about them if you ever want to check those out on my Perceptive Outdoors channel. But I also upgraded the light as well, and that gave me a lot more distance with the 4K. The 4K, I could see, I mean, 500-600 yards. You could see eyeballs, no problem with it. So, but with this scope, I don't know the distance of it yet, but I know this light does really well with this scope, and it's the stock light. So that's pretty much about that. And $600 versus $3,800. Now, this scope right here, the ATN, comes with a set of rings that you basically pull it out of the box and you mount it. It comes with a set of little CR1238 batteries, so that's something you got to take into consideration there. But also, this scope right here has an internal battery, which is really cool. It's non-removable, but it has like a 10-hour battery life, which is super, super good. So, but it comes with its own rings. The Pulsar Thermion, on the other hand, does not come with its own rings. It just comes with the scope. And basically, if you want to get a good set of rings for it, or a good scope mount, you're going to have to pay anywhere from, another $100 to $200. So this is actually a cheap one that I bought for $35, and it has proven to be not very good. It's actually moved a couple times, and then I tightened it up and stripped one of the screws out. Although I have definitely had a lot of success hunting with it, I wouldn't recommend buying that because it's not very good. So that's just an additional add-on that you got to buy once you buy that. So now you're already at $4,000, not including if you have to pay tax or not. But this scope does have an internal battery as well that's non-removable, and it also has an internal removable battery that you can switch out. So I have another extra battery for this. So I basically got about 7 to 8 hours of runtime with both of my batteries. So, and I've never really ran a single set out, but I always keep the extra one just in case we go long on it. So again, night vision versus thermal. Let's talk about that for a second. So I'll give you a couple of examples of, some scenarios and why night vision versus thermal. So I started out basically hunting watermelon fields with my night vision, and also hunting a little bit of woodsy areas for hogs as well. But the watermelon field was more for deer depredation. The deer would get out there and just destroy the watermelon field, so we'd get tags and we were able to shoot them. So and I started out with the night vision on that. So basically was able to do very well with that. And then I got onto these properties right here. I have a couple properties here, and I was able to, with me and help from a couple of my buddies, we would just rotate. But I would be out here every weekend, at least one night, and sometimes 2 nights a week, trying to take care of the deer problem, because the deer are just out of control. And actually, just to give you an idea, this is corn planted right now. Like I said earlier, I was out here the other night just looking around with my thermal, and there was probably 14 to 15 deer just in this area over here, which is like 300 plus acres. So there's still a huge problem, and we didn't even put a dent in them last year, and we killed over 30, or right around 30. So anyways, but I started with the night vision, and night vision is very good. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was very good, but here's the problem. Last year, whenever there was corn planted over here, there was beans planted everywhere else. And earlier on, when I first got out here and the deer were coming out here and the vegetation was low, super easy to find targets and eliminate them, no problem. But as the fields grew higher, that starts limiting your ability to see with the night vision. It's really hard to pick out, the stuff. So I was having issues with that, and I actually had a buddy that was coming with me that had a thermal. And it's not it was a decent thermal, but not like a super high end thermal, probably around $2,000, and with a super low magnification. And basically multiple times we would be in the thicker vegetation, and he could see the heat source in his thermal, and I couldn't see it in my night vision. So just to play them against each other, higher vegetation, in my opinion, using a thermal to at least detect the heat and figure out, where it's at, then maybe getting closer to shoot it with night vision would be a good thing, or even just having a thermal, in general. But one of the things that I will say is that having a thermal sometimes and hunting around places that maybe are more residential, where there could be a dog mixed in, sometimes, it's hard to distinguish with a thermal what you're actually looking at. So like, I'll give you an example. A blue heeler and a coyote kind of have the same body shape as far as like their silhouette goes. So if you had a thermal and you were looking at the two next to each other, sometimes it would be hard to figure that out. Now, obviously, the more a person hunts, the more they're going to know how an animal moves. But there are still issues with that, in my opinion, and I am hesitant to move forward on pursuing a target sometimes because I don't know what it is, not having a night vision to actually ID it. So night vision, you can get a better ID with night vision because you can actually see the black and white of what is there. But with a thermal, you're looking at just the heat source. So sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what you're looking at. Now, I'm not saying all the time, and a lot of people have good luck with this stuff, but there have been occasions where for me, it's hard to distinguish what it is. So it's almost good to have a night vision, like kind of a scope there, just to kind of check yourself. But a tool that I would say, like right now, I don't really use the night vision. I mean, I love the thermal. The thermal is the ticket. This thing has an 1,800 yard detection range. So I could be all the way at the other end of this farm, and if the grass was low enough and I could see all the way across, I could see a heat source on the other side. I mean, it's crazy how far you can see with this thing. Now, this is obviously a 3.5 power, not obviously, but it's a 3.5 power, and I couldn't take a shot that far, and I would never do that because obviously you want to ID your target 100% before you do that. But nighttime is easy to get close to animals anyways, in my opinion. I mean, I've actually stood in a road before and a deer was walking up, and we just stood there, and the deer, I mean, the closer he got, he just didn't know we were there because the wind was in our favor. So nighttime is so easy to sneak up on stuff. Now, if the wind's not in your favor, you're kind of messed up. But anyway, so I like the thermal, no doubt, but there are times when I can't ID stuff, and that's just how it is. But if I were just starting out, let's just say that, number one, I'd get a good scope that has a good picture. This thing's really simple. And I'm still playing with this, but it's really simple, but it has a great nighttime illumination picture. But if I were going to be on the low end of the thing, on the low end of the spectrum, and have a night vision scope, I would definitely have a thermal monocular to back it up. And I do have a thermal monocular. I have a decent one, although right now it's broken and I'm waiting to get it repaired. But that thing is amazing. And I use it even when I have my rifle set up on a tripod, and because this is a 3.5 power and my monocular is a 1 power, I'll use it just to scan around me close because it's easy to see something coming or see something that got too close. Then I'll go to my rifle and actually ID it with the rifle, because sometimes the ID is a little bit harder on the lower magnification. So, but I mean, using night vision and having a thermal monocular is awesome. But you're looking at 1,600 plus another 1,300 or so. I mean, you're looking at almost $2,000 to have a decent setup with the double. And then, if you want to go that route, that's great. But there's going to be times whenever you can't use this. Let's talk about that again. Perfect scenario once again, right? We're in this field and it's usually late at night. By the time midnight hits, 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, the dew starts dropping and it gets foggy. Guess what? When it's foggy, you can't see nothing with this because all it does is illuminate the fog and you cannot see through it. But with this, you can see right through it 99% of the time. You can see right through it and you can still see animals that are there. Now, you might not be able to detect them as far, but you're still going to be able to see them with this, no problem. So that's another big deal. If it's foggy, it's going to shut you down with the night vision. So the thermal's definitely a good thing to have. So that's pretty much the pluses and minuses to the night vision versus thermal. Without getting too much further into that, I mean, I think that's a good basis or a good baseline to, to get started with, what's going to be better for you. And, I live in Florida. It's perfectly legal to use these here, but it's not legal in some states. And I don't know what those states are, but I do know that people use these in Georgia. I know they use them in Texas like crazy. I've been hunting in Alabama since I was like in my teens, but it's been a while since I've been there. But I know that they used to have a law that said that you weren't allowed to use anything that projected something forward. And I'm not sure if a thermal fell into that, but I do know that recently in the last few weeks, their governor or their lawmakers just signed something in that said that you can now get a permit to hunt predators and hogs at night with thermal and night vision in Alabama, which is really cool because I got a buddy coming down here in a couple weeks and I'm going to take him hog hunting here. But at the same time, I'm hoping to get up to his neck of the woods during deer season, and maybe we can get on a little bit of that up there. Hopefully, I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but always study and try to figure out what your laws are in your state before you just go run out and buy something, or even if you're traveling to another state, because it might not be legal. So that's pretty much it with that. Let's move into the State of the Union. So the last week has been crazy. I've been putting out videos left and right, and I'm still just trying to put out videos left and right. I mean, that's like my game right now. I was not able to get out, although I am going to get out tonight, hopefully in this general area. Although, again, the grass or the corn is pretty high, so it's going to be difficult to detect something here. I mean, ideally, the thing would be to have a drone launched and actually to be able to spot them and then go to them and do it. Although it's knee high, in some places it's waist high, and it's not impossible, but it's definitely a lot harder to find stuff in the higher vegetation. So I'm kind of limited, but at the same time, I'm going to be out anyways doing some video on the new scope and also doing comparison videos between that one and the Sightmark Wraith. So that's pretty much it with that. I wish that I was getting out more, but there was a couple nights this weekend that I didn't feel good. My boy didn't feel good, so it just made it really hard. But, I'm going to keep pushing and try to make that up. So I got a goal to reach 100, and right now that's not looking very well, and I'm just going to be straight up about it. But at the same time, I'm going to keep pushing, and, wherever I end up, it's going to be way higher than I did last year, and I'm going to be more smarter and more knowledgeable about the whole thing. So we'll just go with that. So with that being said, as far as the rest of what's going on, night vision versus thermal, if you are looking to buy a night vision or thermal scope in the near future, whether it's your first one or third one, go to my website and check it out. It's called yournextnightscope.com. Go there, put in your email address, and download my free PDF. It's basically 7 things to consider when buying your next night vision scope or thermal scope. It'll save you time, money, and aggravation. Just things to consider, from night vision versus thermal to batteries to, mounts to scope sizes. I mean, there's magnification, all this stuff that I talk about in there. 100% free. Go check that out. And then also, just for future, I've been working on a lot of stuff for my Perceptive outdoor gear, and I'm going to be doing more with that, working on trying to get some more capital up so I can keep more scopes in inventory, because that seems to be a big problem right now, is like keeping stuff in stock, but also having stock on hand so that I can sell more stuff. And also, I always want to have like t-shirts and logo stuff on there, and I'm working on doing more stuff on that. And Memorial Day and Memorial Day and the 4th of July, Independence Day, is coming up. So I'm working on some more. It's like a patriotic line, which is more like, American flag type stuff with my logo and stuff like that. Because I am 100% American, even though, my parents, my mom is obviously, her family was Indian somewhere up in Alabama. And then my dad's parents, were Cuban. They came over here legally. And, but I mean, I love America. I love the whole fact of, the Second Amendment. I love all that stuff. And basically, I just want to promote that as much as possible because I am so blessed to live here. We are so blessed to live here. We are so blessed to have what we have here in this free country that we live in, even though it doesn't seem that way sometimes. So I'm always like trying to put together stuff. And as far as, you know, the stuff that I wear, I try to be I'm trying to wear more American stuff because we are America. And, you know, that's just the way I feel about that. And I hope that you agree as well, because without that, we don't enjoy none of the stuff that we get to enjoy. Freedom is such a cool word, and it's such a cool concept, and we're just so blessed. So that's going to wrap up this episode. If you like this podcast, please share it. Please drop a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Hit the little subscribe button, and then click the bell for all the notifications. And I appreciate you watching this. And I'm going to continue to keep bringing, you know, content here. I know I'm not perfect and I'm not the best podcaster, but I am working on interviews. I had one scheduled last week and it kind of fell through, but I'm going to keep pushing on that because, you know I don't know everything, and I'm going to learn from the interview as much as everybody else. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. This is episode number 9, Predator Hunting Radio, and we are out.